Welcome back to War Thunder and welcome to a crew guide for both aircraft and tanks. Now, to make this clear in the beginning, I will just spend time in the hangar theorizing a lot, and this will bring a lot of stats with it, so I hope you bear with me. I want to make it as briefly as possible in one take, and I also want to make the distinction between arcade battles, realistic battles, tank crews, plane crews, also the various different types of planes, for example bombers versus fighters, and also for example AAA vehicles or light tanks versus heavy tanks. Also, I want to talk about how to efficiently distribute your crew XP points to get the most out of it. This is also mentioned for people with beginners but also advanced players. So if I mention something that you already know, be patient. This crew guide is for everybody. So I actually look here at the Sonderkraftfahrzeug 6.2, and that for a good reason. This vehicle is a rather low tier 1. So when you begin to play War Thunder, you might just have no premiums. You just want to experience the game a little bit and want to get good, so to speak. But how do you do that? Well, your crews help a great deal. Without your crews being experienced, you have a hard time. But your crews are not everything. At the end of the day, it's up to you to make the most out of it, and you are the one actually controlling the plane / the tank vehicle whatsoever. Now, when you get your nations first, you have just 3 slots, and then the next one costs 10,000 and 50,000 civil alliance respectively, and then you get 200 golden eagles and so on, so it gets more and more expensive. The most that I know is either 10 or 12 crews, but I don't need that many. Even for the most diversive lineup that seems to be useful, you don't need that many crew slots. So let's begin with airplanes and let's get right into it. So we have here the Me-262 A2A, and let's just say I want to put a new slot in it. So I just put it out of the slot, then I select it again, and now we can see here that I could put it into this crew without any penalty, because the vehicle is already trained for that crew, or the crew is trained for that vehicle, and it never loses this ability. So this is one of the major differences between certain other games. Now I'm just curious, I just want to change my lineup, so I put it into another slot, and then it asks me if I want to retrain this type of vehicle or the crew for this type of vehicle, and if I'm sure, and then I say yes. And now it's getting important, because now let's get right into the crews. So when you look at your crews, you see this: pilot, gunner, logistical service qualification, accelerated training, air vehicles, ground vehicles, and so on. Then you see all those yellow ribbons and those bars. They're a bit less full if you're a beginner, or completely full if you're an absolute hardcore player. So you get you have a crew level and a crew XP points, and you gain crew XP points by either using accelerated training for investing golden eagles, which is one of the best uses of golden eagles because you never lose it. And unlike, for example, if you would use golden eagles for getting civil lines, which is actually a bit of a waste of golden eagles in my opinion. And I think with 2,000 golden eagles, each crew has a very, very high amount of crew XP points. But that's not all, because you have to distribute them. And you have your pilots with certain different abilities, your gunners with different abilities, then also the logistical services, which was formerly known as ground crews, and also then you have this qualification. So I hope you're not overwhelmed by my rambling at this point. Let's step a bit back and go for it step by step. First of all, the crew level. Why is the crew level important? Well, it shows the overall experience of your crew. However, this can be a bit deceiving if you're distributing the crew XP points wrong. You can have a rather high crew level, but your crew is not very useful for the vehicle. But the crew level is still important because you need the qualification. I always go from the basic qualification to the expert qualification. And why that is important, I will tell you in a moment. First of all, let's talk about all the abilities. Keen vision is the vision that you look at and where the enemy gets then red boxed. And for aircraft, this also applies to arcade and air RP. So the top is line of sight detection is 7.6 kilometers. The detection range against the sun is 1.9 top, which is also the one look down detection range. And that gives you also a hint that when somebody is way above you, but he is like 2 kilometers or so above you, he will not red box you. However, the vehicle is still rendered, so if he has sharp eyes, he still will detect you. Same goes for awareness. So this is when somebody gets then pointed out on the radar behind you if he is not spotted by somebody else in his keen vision. So maybe you are chasing somebody and you don't pay attention. You always should have one eye on the radar, and then from 760 meters or shorter, an enemy will get will be a red dot on the radar if you have the ace qualification. G tolerance is a bit more important in my opinion, because not just turn fighters but also boom consumers have to pull a lot of Gs from time to time. The peak G is the one that lets you tolerate it, and you have a base of 4.5 with my expert with my current configuration. Let's put it that way. I have 5.35 Gs. If I exceed that in positive G, so if I pull full elevator, my pilot begins to black out. And peak negative G is a much less amount, just minus 2.13 G. This is, I guess, realistic, because you always if blood goes too much into the head, it builds up too much pressure. That is not good. So you also can then black out, or in this case red out. Stamina is then the time that you can sustain the amount of too much G. So this is also very important. Very nice trick is when you begin to black out, you see it on the screen, then you should quickly push the elevator down if you're in a positive G turn, then you quickly change to a negative G turn, and that kind of resets the timer, so to speak. This is a little trick. Vitality, well, for the pilot it's important that he doesn't get killed by a single 30 caliber machine gun bullet, but if he gets hit by a bigger bullet like 20 millimeters, he will get one shot anyway. But the best you can get out of it is when he can survive a 50 caliber round, a single one, not multiple ones. But it also increases the survivability against shrapnels from either exploding high explosive shells in the cockpit, or for example AAA shells. And especially with heavy bomber crews where the bomber is not really well protected, you feel the difference. Then we go to the gunners, and the most important fact is that gunners apply just to the AI gunners. So if you switch the view to gunner view, you have full control, and your gunner abilities don't matter. Number of experienced gunners is important, because if you don't have the amount of experienced gunners equal or higher to what your bomber crew has gunners, then you get a penalty for the rest of the crew abilities. Fire accuracy and fire precision both are important, that your AI gunners actually should shoot precisely and lead precisely towards their fire towards the enemy plane, and also at which distance. So fire accuracy is a bit more important than precision. G tolerance, same with the pilots, same with stamina, and same with vitality. Especially for gunners, they get taken out relatively easily, and they don't get replaced except on the airfield. Then we have logistical services. First of all, the repair speed. We have the in-hangar repair time, which in my opinion is not very important because I always use auto repair and auto resupply. The repair rank is important because if you don't have the repair rank equal or higher to what your plane is in rank, then you don't get the repair speed. You always then drop down to the base repair time. The reload speed is a bit more important for arcade than it is for realistic, especially for bomber crews or for planes with a low amount of ammunition and or big guns. This is important to drop it to an acceptable ratio or amount. And the reload speed is in RRB actually capped by the repair speed, so it never exceeds the repair speed. When your plane is freshly repaired on a runway, it is always also reloaded, if I'm not hugely mistaken. Weapon maintenance is also important. It reduces the overheating, so you can fire longer bursts, more accurate, and also your bomb scattering and rocket scattering drastically reduces. You can see here, for example, for bombs, when you drop from 1,000 meters altitude, your base scattering is 35 meters. So if you have to pinpoint bomb, for example, a light pillbox, you are better off with having a very good crew, and you can almost reduce it to half, like 17 meters for an ace crew. When I first began to play War Thunder, I could drop 50 kilogram bombs without any issues from 6,000 meters on a bunker and hit it reliable if I took the ping into account. But then this came into effect and I couldn't hit anything. Together with the nerf of the bomb splash radius or destruction radius, this is also something that you have to take into account. Now you can see also the total, the base, and then this gray crew ribbons, the yellow crew ribbons. I'm sorry about that. And then also this star, and the star is at the moment by 0 or at 0 for this. And this is where the qualification comes into play. So if you have the necessary amount of crew level, you then can go for the expert crew, upgrade qualification to expert, and the amount of silver lions is equal to the amount of silver lions that you had to spend to purchase the vehicle, and I always do this. And if I now purchase it, I then have on everything +3 except for the repair rank, the amount of experienced gunners, and you know, that gives the entire crew a huge amount of benefit. Especially when you take it into account that you are a new player, you have to focus on getting on spending your crew XP points in that way that your crew level is high. So that means even if you are a fighter pilot, you should think about investing a little bit in a sensible way into your gunners, because therefore the crew abilities for portion 1, 2 and 3 are actually cheaper if you go for than pilot and just go for 4, and the benefit for getting +3 on everything is much more important than to just simply train it manually or by just playing the game. I think for planes it's not that important, it's much more important for tanks. So those are the basics. The one thing that is highly important right now is that the crews work for both air and ground vehicles. So take a look at the crew level 52.65 and the crew XP points 23,160. So if I switch over to ground vehicles, you can see that the crew XP points stayed the same, but the crew level has changed. Now let's put here in this slot a tank, and you immediately can see that this one has a talisman. I actually won this talisman by just playing the game. And let's have a look at the crew. So logistical services, and driver, gunner, tank commander, tank loader, radio operator, and so on is then practically equal to the pilot, gunners, and so on. And the qualification is the same. But the crew XP points that you gained by either purchasing Golden Eagles and spending them on crew XP points, which is also a very effective way of using Golden Eagles efficiently, or by playing the game, you can distribute that in that one crew between air vehicles and ground vehicles. So if you have, for example, a premium plane, one, and you play that non-stop to get the, I don't know, to get the silver lines to support your heat FS spam in the Leopard, then you also gain crew XP points. But you can play the plane without any crew qualifications and invest those crew XP points then in the tank crew. So, for example, let's begin with the logistical services. Repair speed is important, and that reduces the repair time by up to 3 times when fully researched. That is quite something. The repair rank is here the same as for aircraft. Then there's the driver. And now, before I go too much into detail, let's pull out of there and let's have a look at this stat card. And that states for this tank that the repair, the crew keen vision, crew repair skill, crew agility, and crew vitality, you know, are the first 5 crew abilities, and they are truly crew abilities. So every part of the crew has a part in that skill. But the tank driving, the accuracy, the leadership, and the weapon reloading are specialized crew skills, of course. So let's go through it. Sorry, that's the wrong thing. The crew here, the driver. I guess you should prioritize the tank driving, of course, which is the special skill, so to speak, of that driver, of course. That reduces the braking time and also the gear shifting time, which is then very important for fast driving, fast accelerating, best use of the torque of the engine, and also if you are going uphill, that your driver shifts at the right moment so that you can actually shift gear when you're driving up a hill. Keen vision again is more important for arcade. Field repair is very important, especially for heavy tanks or for tanks that get shot at a lot because they are rather slow. So T-95, Mouse, King Tiger, all those vehicles, they have a really big need for the field repair. But not just for the driver, but for all of them. Then the vitality is again very important. So when your tank has a penetrating hit, regardless of the shell type, then by a direct hit of that shell type or the shell effect, your crew member will die regardless. But if it's, for example, a small APHE shell or a spalling effect by a pure AP shell, then your crew member might just survive it if he's far enough away, but still affected. Then the agility is a bit weird, and that is the skill affects the speed of replacement of a withdrawn crew member by another one. Average skill value of the crew counts. As far as I know, that is not completely correct. So while still your entire crew is important, so when, for example, a driver gets knocked out, he gets replaced within 9.67 seconds if you have a fully trained ace crew. And that is a big difference when you look at the base crew, replacement of 14.17. Because between 9.67 and 14.17 seconds, a lot of the reload times fall in. So if just your driver is knocked out, you can then drive into cover if you're close enough to the cover, and the reload time of the tank that is aiming at you is just long enough. And you know, against very rapid firing guns, that is not that effective, but against slower reloading guns like for example 122 millimeters from the Russians, the faster ones, that makes sense. Or you know, when an enemy tank has lost all crew members but two, the reload time of a quick firing gun might just exceed the replacement speed. So that is very important. But on average, the crew amount is important. Gunner, of course, counts the very same. Agility is important, vitality, of course, but also the targeting is very important. So the targeting quality, how well he aims, so misfire and such is also down to the gunner. Then also the targeting speed, which is the turret rotation speed. Targeting vertical speed is the gun elevation speed. All those things also get affected by the gunner, and you can see the impact is kind of huge. Especially when a tank feels a bit sluggish and it's just not good enough, you might just think about this. Range finding, well, in arcade it's a bit important if you completely rely on the red cross or the green cross, but in realistic this also affects the rangefinder. However, your manual aim is also always down to your personal skill. The tank commander also has as a special skill the leadership, and you can see it's not affected by the +3. So this is something that you have purely trained yourself, and that improves the overall skill of the crew by 10%, which is quite something. And the tank loader, obviously weapon reloading is the best thing that you could invest in. So especially when we look at the base reload of 4.81 seconds, with a full expert crew you're going down to 3.92 seconds. That is 0.9 seconds faster reload, and this might be just the edge between life and death for you. And also then you can see the difference between an expert crew and an ace crew, which is here mentioned as top, is not that big. However, it can be decisive in certain situations. The radio operator is not that important. However, with his first 4 skills, he supports the rest of the crew by quite something. I don't rely on artillery strikes, and also the communication radio doesn't seem to be that important. And again, the qualification for tanks, because of what it all affects, is so much more important in my opinion than aircraft that still rely on personal skill. So how to make the best use out of your crews? Well, if you are completely new, you might just invest a few golden eagles. Even a few hundred golden eagles might give you enough crew XP points to distribute them in a fashion that you go for all crew members for the first and second row of the skills respectively. Then press apply. Then you have the necessary crew level, or should have it, and then you purchase the qualification, which then further increases your crew skill. And that is the best way how to increase it. And well, that is actually everything that you should know. However, it is also important, when you think about it logically, certain skills are more important than others, respectively, for the vehicle. If you go for a plane and you just want to train your pilot, it makes absolutely no sense after getting the expert crew to further invest into gunners if you're flying a fighter that doesn't have a gunner, if you just want to specialize that one crew. Also, you have to take into account, if you have too many crews, you are distributing all the gained experience of one battles between all the used vehicles. So that is also a very big factor. I hope I could help you out with this, I hope, brief crew skill guide. If you have further questions or I explained something not clear enough, let me know in the comment section. I will answer all the questions necessary, and if too much goes together, I will redo the crew guide. Now, for further, I kind of say visualizations, I already have made a crew skill guide, but that is rather poor sound quality. However, you will find the link in the video description to that non-listed video. So that's it for me today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I hope you have not fallen asleep by now and you could learn something from it. Give this video a like if you did. Subscribe if you want to see more. Let me know if you want to see more of those kind of guides, maybe with a bit more or less theory. And as always, we'll see each other on the battlefields and in the skies of War Thunder.